Are you an interior designer that's been kicking around starting an online coaching business? Well, then this show is for you. Kendra Perry did just that. She went from firefighter to online business coach, and she's going to tell us exactly how she did it. Hey there, and welcome to the Wingnut Social podcast. I'm your host, the Grand High Poobah of all things here at Wingnut Social, a digital marketing agency for the interior design space and adjacent verticals. And today's show is all about becoming an online coach. Online coaching. Have you had clients or other interior designers come to you and ask for advice on how to maybe start their own decorating or interior design business because they see that you're so successful at it? Have you thought, hey, maybe this is something I could do on the side? The interior design gigs are getting a little stressful. There's stuff on back order. I'm pulling out my hair. I'm getting gray hairs. Maybe online coaching is the way to go. So on today's episode, Kendra Perry is going to walk us through exactly how she did that. But before I get into my chat with Kendra Perry, a little bit of housekeeping. Tomorrow, June 30th at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, whatever that is now, Rochelle Plett of RLP Interiors is going to walk us through value engineered furniture, what it is, why it's so crappy, and how you can educate your clients as to the value of it. Right? And you're not going to want to miss that. You can head on over to wingnutsocial.com/webinar or just hit up the website, go to Wingnut Academy, which is coming soon, and go to that drop down and you'll see that. You can register for free. And if for some reason you're unable to make it at 11 a.m. at that time tomorrow, then register anyway, so you can at least see the replay. Had an overwhelming response. A lot of people have signed up for this. So Rochelle Plett clearly is a big deal when it comes to this. Wingnut Academy, again, push back a little bit because we're just so busy here at Wingnut Social. The demand for our marketing services is insane, really. I'm incredibly grateful for that. I'm hiring like crazy, but the word has gotten out that Wingnut Social is the go-to for digital marketing for the interior design industry and vertical adjacent verticals. So thank you so much for that. But again, wingnutsocial.com to get notifications for when that bad boy launches. It's going to be amazing. Trust me when I tell you. All right. That's it for housekeeping. Now y'all know what time it is.
It's time for mini news sesh. Yeah.
Okay, this week on the Mini News Sesh, we welcome back Emily Lisi, Digital Content Manager at Wingnut Social. Emily, we're talking about engagement rates. It sounds kind of nerdy, but I think it's important. What is it?
Yeah, so I just want to talk about engagement rates just because there was a industry benchmarking report that came out recently, and I think it's really informative, especially for our specific niche of interior designers and decor professionals. So first of all, engagement rate is the percentage of people who see your post and then engage with it in some sort of way. So that can be a like, a comment, a share, a save, things like that. So where we're getting this information from is actually Later, which is a social media scheduling platform. So they analyzed over 63 million posts from over 600,000 accounts. Wow. So yeah, so this data is super informative. And this data is actually based on the analysis of Instagram feed posts collected from 30 different industries. So the one we're going to be touching on, of course, is our industry, which is interior design, specifically the home decor industry is what they call it. It's important to note that this excludes Reels and IGTV posts or Instagram video posts, just because Instagram doesn't give us the engagement stats on those yet. One interesting thing is that not a single industry saw an increase in average engagement rate from 2019 to 2021.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy. Yeah. The overall engagement rate actually decreased by over 28% across all industries.
When did TikTok come out? 2019?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Not that there's any relation. No.
There is potentially a relation to Reels, though, because Reels came out in late 2020, I believe, And with Instagram pushing Reels so much, that resulted in less engagement on normal feed posts. So that actually ties back to the fact that the engagement rate actually isn't, the data isn't recording the engagement rate that you're getting from the Reels. So this is specifically engagement rate on things like feed posts and normal video posts.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, this is showing us that normal feed posts without video, long form or short form in the form of Reels, is getting decreased engagement rates.
Okay, so what does this mean for us in the interior design industry?
So if you want to get an idea if your engagement rate is good or bad, high or low, this is going to give you a good idea of that. So I'm going to go over the average engagement rates based on follower count for people in the home decor industry. So if you have 100 to 1,000 followers, the average engagement rate is going to be 2.8%. So if you're above 2.8%, you're above average. So that's great. Anything below 2.8 and you're below average. If you've got 1,000 to 10,000 followers, the average engagement rate is going to be 1.46. 10,000 to 100,000 followers, and the average engagement rate is going to be 0.7%. And then 100,000 followers and more, the average engagement rate is going to be about 0.54%. So as your followers increase, you're going to get, in general, a lower engagement rate.
Why is that?
Well, the way later calculated was actually based on the number of followers you have. So as you have more followers, more and more aren't going to be seeing your posts.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
So if you want to check your own engagement rate, the best way to do this is actually with the reporting and analytics tool. So if you have something like Later, or we use eClincher here, it'll show you those reports easily. You can see your average engagement rate super easily. But if you don't have a tool like that, you're going to have to manually calculate it, unfortunately. But the way to do that is to do your engagement numbers divided by reach times 100.
Okay.
So that's the formula there. So for example, if your post got 150 engagements and reached 5,000 people, your engagement rate is going to be 3%.
And then you're above average if you have 1 to 100
Yep,
followers. Okay. All right. This will all be in the show notes as well. So if you're out there scratching your head, don't worry. Just head on over to wingnutsocial.com/podcast for this episode 271, and you can get all these numbers in the show notes.
Yeah, so this is one for people who like numbers.
Yeah.
But if you're not sure how to see the total engagements and reach, you just go to the post on Instagram, tap Post Insights, and then you'll see under Accounts Reached and Accounts Engaged. That's where you'll see those numbers there. So then you just whip out your calculator and input the numbers.
All right. That's some really good advice. So if your engagement rate is below average, what are some of the things that we need to be looking at to get that up to par? Because I know that's one of the most important metrics that companies or brands who want to partner or collaborate with you are looking at, not even so much the follower count, but the percentage of engagement. That's super important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that really depends on your personal brand. What we've seen with a lot of our clients is that actually photos of them that aren't necessarily even professional photos are getting a much higher engagement rate than even, professional shots of their designs. That's not to say that including professional shots of your designs isn't important, but we are seeing a trend that pictures of them, videos of them, kind of behind the scenes, a look at their team, those are performing really well on the feed. But of course, other than that, Reels is the way to go if you want to get that engagement up.
Yeah, Reels is definitely the secret sauce. And if you do a reel with your face in it, man, that's just got to be gold, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, Emily Lisi, thank you so much for joining us again this week. I think I have you next week too, right?
Maybe, I'm not sure yet.
All right, have a good one.
Okay, thanks, you too.
Mini new Sesh. Yeah.
Hey there, Kendra Perry. Welcome to the show. How the hell are you?
I'm doing really good. I had a great morning. I got out for a walk. I saw the sunrise. I read a book. I had some coffee, so I'm good.
And it's only 10.
It's only 10. I know. I'm a bit of an early riser.
I'm a little raspy today. I have some allergies going on. It's raining here in Southern Maryland. I don't know what it is. So if I sound like Brenda Vaccaro, those of you who are my age might get that joke. Now you know why. So Kendra, today we're going on a little bit of a detour, but it's still very relevant and relatable, I think, to my interior design audience. And we're talking about how to start an online coaching business and all of the rigmarole that entails. And I'm sure that they're out there listening, and there's more than one that's like, coaching might not be a bad idea because the interior design industry, the business model can be very complex and sometimes frustrating. So if you're at that point to where you're like, I think I want to hang up my designer hat and start coaching, this is the show for you. So Kendra, before we dig in, just tell us who you are and how you help, and we'll get going.
Yeah, so I'm Kendra Perry. I'm an online business mentor for health coaches and health practitioners. I used to be a health coach. Started my business in 2014 as a functional health coach, mostly to help myself, actually. I wish I was saying did it to help other people, but mostly I was having a lot of my own health issues. And I saw, getting a certification in health coaching as a way to sort of help myself. And then that turned into a career because at the time I, wasn't making a lot of money in my current career. I was working in forestry, which was, planting trees, fighting forest fires, designing cut blocks for logging operations, like very physical job. And I was exhausted. I was totally burnt out and I was having all these health issues. So I knew I needed something else. And I live in a really tiny town. So there wasn't a ton of opportunity. So I was like, online business sounds like the way to go. So I did that. Built that business for 5 years. And then in 2019, just kind of got a bit burned out with it and just really love the business side of things, like the tech, the strategy, all that stuff. I'm super obsessed with it. So it seemed like a natural transition to move over into the online business space to help health professionals and practitioners and coaches build their own business.
Well, like I said, I'm sure that there's that percentage of the audiences went, oh, I'm so burnt out.
Yeah, totally.
They're going to sit down, pull the car over and take some notes. So let's start at the very beginning. What better place to start? So if you're out there and you have a full-time business, or like you said, if you're an interior designer and you're like kind of burnt out and you're thinking, man, maybe I want to transition into coaching. What are the first steps? What do we start looking at?
Well, I think the first thing to consider is, we're all an expert in something. And so your audience are experts in interior design. And so there's a huge opportunity there that they could sell essentially like their knowledge, their process and information into a program, an online program, a coaching program. And I'm sure there's a lot of new interior designers that maybe need help with the business side of things, or, maybe there's something that you learned as an interior designer that you wish you knew when you were starting out. And that can all be rolled over into a coaching program, right? If you want to stick with like the interior design route, but maybe you're an expert in something else, and just to give a really interesting example. There is a guy who has a multiple 7-figure business, and he teaches people how to train their cats to poop in the toilet. So, it doesn't have to be anything like you didn't have to go to school for it. You don't have to be like this super crazy smart academic person. Like sometimes you just understand how to do something that other people want to do and they don't know how, and you're just simplifying it for them and you're providing support, right? And so a lot of different things can be rolled over into a coaching business. So I just want to like make that really clear that you don't necessarily like need to have like some specific education. Like you're an expert in something, you could teach that to other people and support them with their journey through that. Okay. So that's the first thing to consider. Now, the most important thing that I think, and this is true for any business owner is, and it's probably true in interior design as well, is figuring out what your niche is, right? Like what segment of the market are you going to target? Because for example, if we're talking about like health coaching, no one's out there looking for health coaching. No one's looking for that, but they are looking for very specific solutions to very specific problems, as are the people who you could serve. Like they're maybe not looking for interior design as an overall thing, or maybe they are, but maybe they're looking for one really specific thing. And this might be a stupid example because I don't understand that space, but like they're like bathroom design or something like that.
No, that exists.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's about like figuring out like, what's the single problem that I solve for people, right? And who is this person? Because we're not just selling coaching. Coaching is boring. No one wants coaching. but we're selling solutions to problems, right? And so you have to figure out like not only like what problem am I solving for this person? And it needs to be like a good problem, something that they are actively searching for a solution for, or something that's like keeping them up at night. They're like, oh man, I just can't figure this out and I don't know what to do. There needs to be a little bit of friction, because that's what people pay for. They pay to solve problems that are kind of big deals, right? But we also want to understand like who is the person we're helping, because that affects how we talk about what we do, right? If I'm targeting, say, like new moms versus college age kids, maybe they have the same problem, but one just had a baby and the other is like partying in university. Like we communicate with those people very differently, right? And so we want to make sure we're always using language that people understand and they get. And like the reason why someone might want to solve their problem as a college age kid and a new mom might be very different, even though the problem's the same. So we really want to understand the niche, which is who do we help? Who is this person? What's the problem that they have? And what's the outcome that we can provide them with our coaching, right? Because that's what we're selling. We're selling the outcome. People want the outcome. They don't want coaching. They don't want health coaching. They don't want the general thing. They want like the specific solution to their problem. So that's number one, is, well, to first understand that you can monetize anything. You can monetize any information or any skill that you've mastered. But number two, it's actually like narrowing down like who's the who and what's the problem that we solve and the outcome that we offer.
How niche is too niche in the interior design industry? And let me give you an example. So I'm friends with and I'm aware of a lot of interior design business coaches, and that's it. Interior design business coaches. But I like what you said. Maybe you could whittle that down and be specifically how to help interior designers who specialize in kitchen and bath design to run their business more efficiently or make more money. Or would you recommend to even niche down to, okay, maybe I want to be a coach to interior designers who have their systems and processes together, but an interior design business coach that will coach you on how to attract more higher end clients, or to switch from being a general overall designer to being a targeted aesthetic? Or is that too niche? Should we be more broad, or am I thinking too small?
So I think the more niche you can go, the better. I'll give you an example. So I have a program that I don't really outwardly market. It's called HTMA Expert, and it teaches health professionals how to interpret a very obscure functional test called hair tissue mineral analysis. And nobody knows what that is. No one knows what that is, right? Health practitioners, health coaches, they don't even really know what it is. Like it's crazy niched. I built it a few years ago because it was part of my health journey. It was a big way that I helped improve my health. And some people wanted to learn it. So I said, hey, I'm just going to build a course, because I couldn't find any training on it. I had to spend years on PubMed and hiring experts to learn it, spending thousands of dollars. So I made this course, and like this course has probably generated me over $500,000 in the past couple years. And I don't do anything to market it, because we just rank number one on Google and people just find it. And there's no competition. There's a few other courses out there, but I've just made mine the best. And it was really easy because I'm only competing with like 3 or 4 people, so I don't think there's anything wrong with going super hyper niched, right? I think if a niche isn't working for you, it's not necessarily like the niche. It's probably more of like how you're communicating what you do and how you're actually saying it. Like people don't quite get it, or you're not quite hitting on like the pain point, right? So I think the more niche you can go, the better, because truly what you're doing is you're becoming a specialist, right? If you're helping interior designers who focus on kitchen, who want to get high ticket clients, like you could probably even go deeper than that, right? And I think that's great, because then you really stand out. You're not just like, I'm an interior design coach. Like I actually do this specific thing. And if this is what you're wanting, I'm your person.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's a really good differentiator and positioning. I love that. Would you recommend that someone kind of start just dipping their toes in this as a side hustle to their full-time interior design, or just go ahead and do it full 100%?
I think it kind of depends on where people are at, right? If people are making a really good income as an interior design, then they might just want to kind of do it more slowly, right? Because sometimes starting a new business, you don't make money in the beginning, right? It takes time to build, and that can be really stressful if you're like worried about paying your bills. And I think when we're desperate for money, we take on the wrong clients and we put our very attached desperation energy and vibes like out into the marketing space. And I think that people feel that. They don't maybe know what they're feeling, but they're like, yeah, I don't know, something's off with this person and I don't know what it is, right? So I think it kind of depends where people are financially. Like if you, if that's paying your bills, like maybe you just transition it to part-time, dip your toes in, like see if you like it, and then just sort of like go from there, right? Versus like maybe you have a bunch of money in the bank and you're just over it. You're like, I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. Then if you can bankroll it, then just go into it. But the great thing about coaching is there's not much for startup costs, right? You don't have to have overhead. You don't have to buy all these big things. You really just need like a laptop, a space, and, probably willing to spend about like $300 to $400 a month on some online tools and, getting your first assistant. Cause I think I'm a big proponent of outsourcing before you need it and getting someone like to do customer service for you or whatever, because we have to focus on those money-making tasks, right?
And your marketing agency, don't forget that.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And the marketing agency with Darla.
Okay, so our audiences put a lot of time into their branding, their website, their marketing, their messaging, their persona, their all of that stuff out there. Can they start to put the messaging out there with their existing channels, their existing website, existing social media channels, or are we recommending a complete separate rebrand?
Well, I guess it depends on who's in the audience, right? Because I'm guessing that if you have all that set up to be an interior designer, then the people who are probably following you are probably potential clients, people who are looking for interior design versus people who like actually want to learn it, right? So it seems like it would be two separate audiences. So something to keep in mind is when you have two avatars, two separate audiences, it is two businesses. So it's double the work. For a short time, I did both health coaching and business coaching. When I first transitioned over, I tried to do both and I didn't last very long. It was exhausting. It was just too much. And I think the best way to scale any business is simplicity. And it's one thing, like one client, one type of client, one program, one social media channel, like one. Like the more we can simplify, the better. But some people, and I think this depends on a lot of different things. Some people are like the multitasker types. If anyone's familiar with human design, they are the manifesting generators, the people who are, they can just handle a bunch of tasks. They can do multiple things. Like that type of person could probably do it. But it is something to keep in mind that, if you're going to do this, look at who's in your audience. Like maybe there are other interior designers in your audience and they just follow your stuff because they like it, right? And they're getting ideas from you. So there's nothing wrong with reaching out and asking, like, who here is an interior designer? Who here would be interested in this? And just kind of getting a read of the room.
I love it. That's where I was actually going with that, because a lot of the interior designers, for whatever reason, we like to follow each other. We like to get in there and see what everybody else is doing and lift each other up and support each other for the most part, which it's really a beautiful thing. Okay, so I'm listening to you. I've decided, it's time. Oh, I did want to say before I get into this that was a decision I had to make between my interior design business and Wingnut Social. Like you said, you were exhausted doing the two separate things. So was I, and I had to choose. So, and that's why Wingnut Social is 100% right now. If you're new to the podcast, I did used to have an interior design firm. It's still kind of there latent. But a divorce and a move and a gun to my head made me choose which one I love the most, and it's 100% Wingnut. Okay, so right, we're going to start our whole brand. We're going to, Darla Powell, interior design coaching. Where do we start?
The easiest way to do this is to start with 101. That is the easiest thing. And sometimes people don't want to hear that because a lot of people want to go straight into like group coaching or just even a course, right? An online course and membership. And you can do that, but it really comes down to, again, like the financial situation. And the question that really determines this is, do I need money fast? Right? Because if you need money fast, if you're like, okay, I'm making this switch and I just need to get money, then go for the one-on-one stuff, because that's, you don't need much infrastructure in place, meaning that you don't need like a launch strategy. You don't need like modules. You don't need hosting, like program hosting and funnels and all of that stuff, because you can literally just reach out to your current audience and say, hey, I'm offering this and to get, this coaching so that you can get this result. Are you interested, right? And you could literally have a client tomorrow. And people don't realize that it's actually easier to sell higher ticket than it is kind of something mid or lower ticket, because it takes the same amount of effort. Whether I'm selling something that's 5,000 versus 500, like the same amount of work goes into it. So you might as well sell the higher ticket thing because you need to find less people. And, if you don't have a huge audience, it's going to be easier with one-on-one. Plus, I don't like to think of it, it is one-on-one, but if your intention is to eventually do some sort of like one-to-many business model, think of it more like market research, right? Because the amount of information and feedback you're going to get in that situation is really invaluable. And that can be applied into a group program, right? You will, because there's so much interaction with one-on-one. You're talking. So you're finding out in real time, like what is confusing or what people need more of or what they need less of, right? They're going to tell you like, I don't get that. Or I think I need something to help me implement this, right? And so there's just a lot you can learn that will roll over really nicely into a group program or an online course, because once you're in that container, there's less interaction. So it's a little bit harder to figure it out, right? So I think one-on-one coaching is a great place to start for those reasons, but some people are really adverse to it. And I get it because I don't do one-on-one anymore. I used to, I don't do it anymore. I find it exhausting. So some people are just like, nope, won't do it. I hate it. And if you're going to hate it, there's no point in doing it, right? That's not going to serve either party. So you just have to be realistic and understand that to do something like a group or a course or membership or something like that, you need volume, you need more people to sell to, and you need more infrastructure in place. So it takes time. I think with any group program, one-to-one membership, like I'd give yourself like 6 to 12 months to really get it bringing in a full-time income. Whereas with one-on-one, like you could get 3 clients tomorrow, make, anywhere from 3 to 15 grand, depending on what you're charging. Right. So I think just you have to be willing to audience build and you have to be willing to list build. And that's what takes the time, is the nurturing and the growth, because you're going to sell to people on your email list and not through social media.
Let's say we've done that. We built our email list. We have our social media following. Maybe we have a podcast. We have a YouTube channel. And now we want to get into the group kind of situation. Is Mastermind synonymous with group coaching? Is there a difference?
So I would consider a mastermind as something that is longer in duration and higher touch. Group coaching, I would say like a mastermind, like kind of rolls in group program into it. But, I think it depends on how people define things. So for example, I'm in a mastermind program right now, and that includes group coaching, but also a lot of one-on-one support. There's also like course and modules and there's like kind of the collaboration of the group and all of that. But what I offer my students is what I call group coaching, group mentorship. And so there's no one-on-one in that, right? People don't get any one-on-one coaching. We do group coaching calls. They get a curriculum, that sort of thing. So it kind of depends. Like I think masterminds tend to be, honestly, people can make their definition for whatever they want, but most people would consider masterminds to be like a year-long, like, 6 to 12 month like coaching program that goes really in depth, but in a group situation, usually with some one-on-one, versus group coaching. It could also be that, but it could be shorter in duration. So I think there's a lot of overlap between the two, and it just kind of depends on how people are defining it.
So which do you recommend starting with? The group coaching? Is that the lower hanging fruit?
Yeah. So I think with group coaching, like it maybe depends on the clientele, because like in the business space, in the B2B space, like people know what a mastermind is. But if I'm talking to business to consumer, they might be like, well, what the hell is a mastermind? So I think it depends on the niche. But I think group coaching, there's just a lot more flexibility in that. You could call it a mastermind. It could be the same, but I think, the same goes with group coaching. Like there's a huge testing phase involved in it, because even if you have worked with one-on-one clients and you've learned a lot from them, when you roll that over into a group container, it's still going to be different. It's delivered differently and it still needs to be tested. So I always like people to start with what I call a beta program, right? A beta program where essentially you are marketing it as a beta program, right? This is the founding program. You're offering a founding member discount, right? And that can be as much as 50%, just because you're saying, hey, this is my first time running it. And if you become a beta client and join the founding program, you're going to get this really crazy price discount, but you're going to get more access to me in exchange for feedback. Because that's what you want. You want feedback. Because the first time you roll out a group program, it's not going to hit the nail on the head. No one does that. Not even like the top marketers, coaches on the planet. Like the first time, there's always a lot of kinks to work out. You might find out you hate it, or it might just be totally like, oh, I really just whatever. So you want to run it as a beta with a smaller group of people, because what I've seen people do is, they have a bigger audience. They get like 50 or 100 people into a group program, and it just doesn't work. And then they have all these like refund requests, and it just really turns into a really stressful situation.
50?
Yeah, 50 to 100, like that.
I can't even imagine.
That'd be crazy. But then, if you keep it around 10, it's a lot more manageable, right? And so you want to do that and test it with a small group of people. And then learn from that, right? Get the feedback, like send out feedback surveys, learn from it and then update the program. And then at that point you can relaunch it at your higher price point, right? And you can relaunch it with confidence because you're like, people have gone through this, they've gotten results. I have these testimonials, I have social proof. I'm not just talking out of my ass saying, oh, my program's going to get you all these results when it never has, right? So there's transparency, there's authenticity, which is really important. There's trust with that. And from there, you can kind of do what you want with it. You can do it as a cohort style program where you maybe just launch it a few times a year if that's your thing, if you like time off in between, or maybe you're going to have like an ongoing enrollment model where people can just join whenever.
And how important are Facebook groups or community like social groups to help support these?
Community is really important. I think community is really critical in group coaching. If we're talking about online course, it depends, right? Some people like to run DIY courses where there is no support, and that's cool. You just have to be transparent about that. But I find a lot of coaches in particular, at least in the space that I work in, like really care about intimacy with their clients, and they care about results. And I think ultimately the support makes a program really valuable. And we're talking about group coaching. There needs to be a community. Now, it doesn't have to be Facebook. I have a lot of gripes with Facebook. I feel like everyone's getting like banned and deplatformed lately. And it makes me just like, why am I running my groups on Facebook? Like people seem to be getting banned for silly things. So, but I've also like had my groups on Facebook for like 5 years. So it's like this huge thing. So I think if I were starting today, I wouldn't even bother with Facebook, to be honest, just because I think it's risky. It's risky in my opinion, but there's really great communities like Circle and Mighty Networks. And I've seen people do communities on Slack too. And actually, I have enjoyed Slack, but I think Circle is the one that people are really liking because it looks like Facebook. It kind of has the whole setup. It's just not Facebook, right? I think it's just something to keep in mind is you will get more engagement in a Facebook group because people know how to use Facebook. They already got the app on their phone. They already know how to use it. So if you're going to do a community off Facebook, there needs to be some training involved. You have to train people how to use it.
LinkedIn has some groups too.
Do they?
Yeah, LinkedIn has groups where you can follow in groups and you can chat and go in there. Yeah.
Interesting.
I belong to a couple of them. I belong to ASID and some home something groups, and which I'm not over there a lot, but they do have them.
That's good to know. But I wonder if LinkedIn will become like Facebook one day and just like start kicking everyone off.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying LinkedIn. And you're right. Facebook is not a lot of people happy with Facebook, but they're still the big kid in the room, right? They're still because I own Instagram and everything. But okay, so let's talk about, I was getting on a tangent. Let's talk about an online course. Where does that fall? I'm thinking that's way advanced. You're doing your coaching, you've done your one-on-one, now you're doing your groups or your masterminds. You've got that dialed in with your beta. What time do we start thinking about an online course, and what does that structure look like?
Yeah, so I think if you were going to do the perfect progression, you would do one-on-one. So I think like when we're building a program, like we are building one program, and that can be repurposed into all kinds of different things, right? We start with that program, we run it as a one-on-one program, we repurpose it into a group program. Same program, we change the container, right? So the same thing can be repurposed into an online course. And I think the beauty of when you run it as a group coaching program before is again, that feedback. You co-create, right? This co-creation process with your clients is really beautiful. And that's how you make a program that's specifically for them. Because when we get into courses, typically what I would consider a course is something with less support. It has less intimacy. So potentially people are only getting access to the community or a Facebook group or, a Circle group or LinkedIn group, whatever. Or potentially they have some Q&A calls, but typically it's going to be more like webinar style. So, I talk, you type in the chat box, like we're not really actually having two-way conversation. So when that's the case, you just want to be really confident that your program's going to deliver in that format when people have less support, meaning that it needs to be like a manual, right? Like if we're talking about like a desk, building a desk, like if you get generic, like general overview instructions that don't actually help you build the desk, you're going to be pissed. Versus like, I put the things together and then I use this tool and I turn the screw 3 times and whatever, like it has to be that specific with a course. Like you have to assume people know nothing, and doing that well comes from actually interacting with the people of whom you're going to serve. Right. So I think, once you are really clear on your curriculum, and you're like, this curriculum works, people get it, they're not getting too confused, and I've added in all these things and it's getting the result that I promised, like that's a really good time to roll it into an online course if you want. You don't have to. Some people don't want to do that, and that's cool. But with courses, like typically we're kind of going lower ticket, right? From high ticket one-on-one down to like kind of a lower ticket course. You just want to make sure you have the audience in order to sustain that. And you want to make sure you have consistent source of traffic. So that could be organic. I would say you got to be really good with your organic in order to have that be consistent. Organic traffic is hard these days, right? So that might be the situation in which you're considering like paid traffic, paid ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, that sort of thing.
A friend of mine, Sandra Funk, she has a course called The Design Standard, where she teaches, it's pretty comprehensive, and she does a little bit of both. It's a course that you can take, but she also is there in person. It's like a little bit of a hybrid, and she does that seasonally. Right. And she does that seasonally. It's very high end. It's not, it's a very good investment to get into. It's well worth it. I've taken it. I was a beta tester for it back when she first started it. But I like that. Is that sustainable? Because I don't know if she's still on them, but she's in them, or at least she was in them, every one. And it's a lot. It's a lot of work to be in there at some point. So I can't even imagine her automating that, to being a passive income without her being involved in it. Would that be the next step for her? Do you think that that's something?
So is this with the in-person? Is this with the in-person stuff?
Yeah, it's a course, and they walk through. It's like a presentation and a course, and there's homework, just like you would with any course, except she's there and she's presenting and she's walking you through it. So it's very, there's a lot of handholding, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say you can automate it to a certain point, right? And I think depending, like for example, with the course that I told you about in the beginning that I don't market because it kind of sells itself, like I'm actually not involved in that course, right? Like I have coaches who work in it for me, and they're in the Facebook group, and I'm just in the course doing the pre-recorded modules. So I've actually pulled myself fully out of that. But I think it kind of depends, and I think you can have whatever business you want, and it just depends on like how important it is for you to actually interact. Like me personally, with that course, like I'm not super passionate about coaching for that, but I think the course is great and people love it and get results out of it. And I have coaches who are really passionate, and that's great. When it comes to what I do with business coaching, I don't think I'll ever pull myself fully out of it because I love it, but I still have coaches who work in it for me. So I take things off my plate, right? So it can be sustainable. So in the case of like this program, like she probably is going to be the one doing the live events, right? Because people are going to want that. That's huge value, but she doesn't have to be the only one doing the live events, right? She can bring in guest experts. She can have her team facilitate. And in the program, like she can bring in other coaches to do the coaching or take over the Facebook group or whatever it is, or even do the one-on-one calls, right? Like if I was ever to bring one-on-one coaching into my current program, Health Coach Accelerator, I wouldn't be the one doing it because I hate one-on-one. So I'd get someone else to do it. So I think we have to, just saying, love my old one-on-one clients, but I find it exhausting.
You loved it when you were doing it, right?
I loved it when I was doing it till I didn't. And then I was just like, oh man, I literally feel like it sucks my soul for whatever reason. So anyways, but group coaching, I love it. For some reason, like group coaching is super fun for me. So, it's just about what you're into.
It's a lot more energy. It's a lot less one-to-one pressures. Like, I don't know if you're like I am, but I'm an introvert.
Me too.
I'm someone that after I'm like an introverted extrovert, right?
Yes, that's me.
So I'll do this, I'll do video, I'll do events, but then I need the downtime. I need to recover. I can't just go. So it is a little draining to have one-on-one because you're giving a lot of energy.
And I feel like it requires more time on your computer if you're doing online, right? Because then you're going to have a bunch of one-on-one versus, just one group coaching program. But I think what people need to let go of is that they need to do everything, and they don't. You can still have an incredibly valuable program that doesn't hinge on you, where you're not the linchpin in everything, right? You can bring coaches in to help you. And I think sometimes that can even be really valuable because everyone has different experience. And perhaps like this coach, like they have another experience that they bring in that just really adds to the value of the program.
That's aspirational to get to the point to where, all right, now you have coaches working under you and you're just, like you said, you're doing the video or you're doing the rainmaking or the main part of it, but they're doing the coaching part. That would be the goal, I would think. I mean, some business owners don't want to grow or scale to that point.
Totally. Some people just want to do one-on-one forever, and that's cool. You know, like that's fine. Like it's really about the business that you want. And I think definitely like, you know, you can scale one-on-one to a certain point. Obviously there's a ceiling to that, but sometimes like you can have a multiple six-figure business just doing one-on-one.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Look at Grant Cardone. Yeah, I think he does pretty well. Kendra, is there anything that I've forgotten to ask you that you think the audience needs to hear before we get into the fire round?
I don't think so. I think if you are burnt out, like Darla said at the beginning about you're like, I'm burnt out, like this interior design shit, like isn't for me. Like there's still a lot of opportunity where you can still like be in the same space that you're in. You just leverage your skills in a little bit of a different way. So just think a little bit bigger and know that like people will pay for that. Like absolutely. There are other designers who probably think you're awesome. You're all following each other. They just really like your style. And that's something you could teach to people. And so I just think there's a lot of opportunity for your audience. I just want to make sure people know that.
All right. Great food for thought. But Kendra Perry, now I have to ask you, are you ready for the What Up Wingnut round?
Yes.
Now it's time for What Up Wingnut.
What would the hashtag on your tombstone be?
Through the fence. It's something that my partner always says to me. He's like, you're just like, when you want to do something, it's like people will put a fence up in front of you and you just like, don't even hesitate. You just walk through it. I've been like that in like my entire like business. And I'm just like, nope, I don't want to do that. Through the fence.
I love it. You're stuck on a deserted island, but you can have your favorite food forever. What's it going to be?
Honestly, this is super boring, but like white rice, butter and salt. I love butter. I love white rice. It's just like, I don't know why. Like just I could just live off it. Like even plain, even if you didn't have the butter or salt, I would just like eat the white rice plain. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I like it too. I understand. I get it. It's fine. There's no judgment here. Last but not least, please recommend a book that has impacted you either personally or professionally.
I think one of the most impactful books for me was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. I think some people will probably know that book. It's pretty popular, but she was a woman who kind of used like energy and like the power of thought to cure her like pretty progressive cancer, I believe. And at the time I was a pretty negative person and I was having really negative thoughts about everything and wondering why I was kept having the experience over and over and over again. And I was having this one experience with dating actually. And I read that book and I realized that I was thinking really negatively about like love and relationships and dating. And I changed my thoughts. And within 4 weeks, I met this really amazing partner who didn't turn out to be my forever partner, but it taught me a lot about like the power of what we put out there into the universe.
And that's called, I'm going to download that one.
It's called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Yeah, that was probably the first personal development book that I read where I was like, whoa, like I am manifesting like a really shitty reality for myself.
Well, no more shitty reality for you, Kendra Perry. Please tell the audience where they can go to find out more about you and we'll call it a day.
The best place to connect with me on social is Instagram. That's where I hang out. My handle is @Kendra Perry Inc. My website is kendraperry.net. And I also have a podcast where we talk about coaching, business strategy, tech, mindset. We talk about some woo-woo weird shit too. And that is the Wealthy Coach podcast.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kendra.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So what do you think? Are you going to try your hand at becoming an online business coach? I think Kendra Perry made a cogent argument for just how to do that, especially with her story. Make sure to head on over to wingnutsocial.com/podcast and check out Kendra's show notes so you can get all of the links and deets and information if you are unable to write this down for any reason, which you can do for any of our episodes. Head on over there. I hope you join us tomorrow, June 30th, Eastern Standard Time, for our webinar at 11 a.m. with Rochelle Plett. That's going to be amazing. And head on over to wingnutsocial.com just to check out what we can do for you as interior designers, architects, and to the trade manufacturers to help you get seen by your ideal client in the digital realm. All right, until next time, remember to get out there, get uncomfortable, and be great. But before I get into my conversation with Kendra Perry, a little bit of housekeeping. Tomorrow, June 30th at 11 a.m. in real time. Shit.